early spring, we did a frost seeding on a pollinator mix, and it took really well, and we've just been letting it go since then. All right.
Well, thanks for having us out to Bel Air Farm.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you here, Keith.
It's a beautiful farm. You've got nice flowers, you've got rows of vegetables. Can you tell us a little bit more about Bel Air?
We're just south of Charlottesville, in between Charlottesville and Scottsville, and we're doing about 25 acres of produce every year.
Wow.
And we're mostly marketing that through a CSA program. We also have a fair amount of pick your own just for the general public, and then a farm store that's open as well.
That's great. And so how many types of vegetables and different things are you growing out here?
We're growing about 50 different types of vegetables and probably 150 different varieties.
Wow, so you've got to think a lot about, as a certified organic farm, your organic pest control.
Yeah, we're thinking about that a lot. And for us, that always starts with healthy soil and just making sure that plant is happy, and then they can have a lot of natural defenses.
Well, thank you so much for having us out. It's beautiful, and I'm going to go catch up with Dr. Tom Kuhar now.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. It's good to have you.
Thanks, Nat. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, Tom, what are you looking at there?
Hello, Keith. I'm looking at any pests that might be on the farm, and I'm checking out these tomatoes right now, and they've done one heck of a job of keeping the pests off of these tomatoes because I'm having a hard time trying to find any.
Nice. So here at Bel Air Farm, they practice an integrated pest management. Can you define integrated pest management?
Sure. Integrated pest management, it's actually a complicated phrase. I like to put in for the I instead of integrated intelligent pest management because I think that's more important to think that you're using all the knowledge that's at your disposal in order to find some way that you can manage this pest problem that you have. Virginia is rich in natural enemy insect arthropods, which are predators, parasitoids of a lot of these pests, and helping to enhance them, conserve them, so that they can do what they do is a huge part of integrated pest management.
Nice. So what are some of those beneficial predators that we might see in our home garden?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. There are tons of predators, and these are insects that'll consume the whole prey insect. Praying mantis is one that comes to mind that everyone thinks of. But there's also a lot of predatory bugs, assassin bugs. They have a piercing, sucking beak, which they jab it into their insect prey, and then they liquefy the tissue and ultimately kill that insect as well.
Oh, wow.
There are a lot of those out there, and then there are even more parasitoids. A lot of these insects that are out there. Happened to find one. I was walking around earlier. So this pest right here, Keith, is, well, you know what that is?
It's a caterpillar of some kind.
It is. That's a great start, knowing that that's a caterpillar. That's the imported cabbage worm, or the cabbage butterfly, that white butterfly that we see commonly flying around. Although this was on a brassica crop, they like broccoli and collards and things like that. So that caterpillar will chew up the leaves. Anyone that's grown brassicas in Virginia knows what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But you may not know what that is. That was found on the leaf right next to this. And what this is a parasitoid wasp that stung one of those caterpillars. She laid her eggs inside of there. Those eggs multiplied, and ultimately they developed within the caterpillar, ultimately killed it, and came out and spun their little cocoon. So out of each of those little cocoons is going to be another wasp that's going to find another caterpillar, and it'll all start all over again. So this is a great example of a parasitoid wasp that's out here naturally. And although we still see a lot of these pests, and this alone is not going to control this insect, could you imagine how many of these there would be if 60 to 80% of them are going to be parasitized? So it would be ungodly. We couldn't grow collards or broccoli. So you know, this is one example. There are tons of parasitoids that do a heck of a job here in Virginia.
How can one go about identifying them?
There are millions of insects, so you know, no one's going to know them all, but you can start getting a good idea of what it is, and it's very important. That's an essential part of, we mentioned integrated pest management. The foundation of it is correct identification. There are some identification apps that you can get, phone apps that are free and really, really effective. So you get your identification, and once you know what it is, in this day and age that we're living, the information is at your fingertips. So find out what it is, why you may have had this problem, and then what are some things you can do.
So Tom, in addition to some of the organic sprays out there, I know integrated pest management deals with resorting to chemical means when there's a certain threshold crossed. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah, that's an area that a lot of conventional growers are well aware of, the word action threshold or even economic threshold, where you're bringing in, does the cost of putting a control out, is it worthwhile? But threshold also means a lot of times you can tolerate pest problems. A lot of home gardeners can. You know, you've harvested summer squash all summer long, and you know, let's be honest, you might be a little tired of it. And then in comes the pest. You get some fungal diseases like powdery mildew, and squash bugs are starting to take over at that point. What's your tolerance for? Well, your tolerance might somewhat be related to the fact that you're kind of done with squash anyway, so there was no pest control needed. Now, if those squash bugs came in before you harvested your first squash, you might have a different thought about it, and those plants are young and you need to protect them. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind. There's tolerance levels, and some of that you learn from experience, which ones can really get you.
I'm wondering about some of the new insect pests that we should be on the lookout here in Virginia.
Sure. Well, that's something that's becoming more and more an issue, is new pests. Spotted lanternfly is one of the new ones that some folks have heard of, especially if you're in the Winchester area of Virginia. That's where it's kind of centered right now in the state. Originally came into Pennsylvania and is spreading. There's a lot of insects that are kind of in southern pests that we've not typically dealt with in Virginia, but all of a sudden it seems like year after year now we're dealing with this tropical insect. Pickle worm is a great example. Last 4 years in Virginia, pumpkin growers, squash growers, they get this late season caterpillar that bores into their fruit. And it's not something we've always dealt with, but we are now, it seems like, continuously. So that's a late season pest we got to be on the lookout for.
If we're able to identify things like spotted lanternfly migrating down from other counties, who should we contact with Cooperative Extension?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think some homeowners aren't aware of the Virginia Cooperative Extension Service and what they do. That's their job, is to handle these calls, help growers and homeowners identify what their problems are, maybe come out to the farm. They may find something for the first time in Virginia, and that's really important to document this new pest problem, this new outbreak. They will find specialists, or they may be able to just solve the problem themselves.
Well, thanks, Tom. It really has been so valuable learning from you. It's been great information. Really appreciate you taking the time to teach us about different insect pests that we might see here in Virginia, and thanks so much.
Sure, my pleasure, Keith.